Hello, Facebook. Decided to post another video today. I was prompted by the Lord to get back on and say a few things about where we're at as a nation somewhat, and where we're at as the church in a nation. I do a lot of writing and a lot of praying. And what a lot of people don't realize is that when I first started out in ministry, I started as a very strong prophet. And the prophetic is probably coming through in a lot of my writings and teaching. And it's probably just as dominant a gift as the apostolic grace on my life. But I wanted to talk to us today about where we're at as a nation. Before I get into that, I just want to tell you that we have our Revealing Conference coming up, January 22nd and 23rd, of a free flow of just listening to the Holy Spirit and allowing the leaders that come to be able to get up and share spontaneously throughout Friday night and all day Saturday. I just encourage you to come. Our last one was a tremendous encouragement to those that came, and we had people come from many different states and places, and so we're going to do that again. We are getting ready to start up Legacy School once again, and probably the thing that's really starting to catch on is our new Base app. You can get the Base app in the Google Store and Apple Store both, and it has podcasts on it now. We have about 100 podcasts and different things on there for you to explore. All our schools are setting on there, are different types of schools that we have. Tells about our ministry and all of that, and it's a good way to stay connected. We'll be sending out notifications from time to time, and with the way social media is, probably our app is going to be our primary connecting point as if something would happen to all the social media like Facebook, etc. But today I wanted to talk to us about the state of our nation and where we're at. In 2014, the Lord gave me this book, The Breath of God, and I took this book and wrote it in about 30 days. I locked myself away, and the Lord told me, He said it would be a prophetic roadmap for the church coming into the next season. And I've seen it actually unfold exactly like the Lord said. Has nothing to do with me writing or getting insight, just the Lord revealing. And it talks about the 7 glories and the 4 breaths that are in the book of Ezekiel. I pull those things out. And there has always been a glory that's resting over the top of our captivity as a people. It has always been present, whether we have felt it or not. And that's the first glory. But we're actually sitting right now at the 4th and 5th glories. We're getting ready for another breath to come. We're getting for a breath in this next moment of time, actually. But some people are back in a 4th glory. Others are moving into a 5th glory. I believe that this last year I thought we were in the 5th glory because it's a glory that moves to the eastern gate. It's found in Ezekiel 10:18. But we're actually in a lot of places back at the 4th glory, which fills the court and starts to touch heavenly things, and that is a filling glory, and it requires His presence, and that's found in Ezekiel 10:4. And so what God has been endeavoring to do over the last bit of time is He's been trying to get us filled with His nature, or forming His nature within us. It has been more than us just understanding some things of God, but allowing Him to actually be formed in us. And it's going to require some things out of us that's going to be laying down of ourselves, dying to ourselves. And as we're seeing all the what I would call social unrest in social media amongst Christians, I'm very much concerned of how I'm seeing what is still in men's hearts, especially ones leading, where his nature has not been formed yet. And so there's a filling that's still going on, but yet God is still moving on. And in Ezekiel 10, it talks about the glory departed from off the threshold of the house and stood over the cherubims and wheel amongst the wheel. It's actually the Ezekiel 10, the 5th glory is setting right now upon us as a dividing glory. And it's actually a glory that comes to do a national purging. that an entire nation will be purged, and it requires holiness to be able to participate in that glory. And that glory is setting right now in our nation. I believe we are coming into that. I was hoping in where we were in the last 4 years that we were actually in a purging glory. But what I now see is that we were in a place where God was dealing in the hearts of men about what nature they were going to carry and what they were going to do. So I want to just read something out of this book. A lot of times I go back and reread my own writings to hear what God said, because it's more God speaking than me. And this is what I wrote about this fourth glory of that requires a filling and requires His presence. Once we have decided the glory is greater than my captivity, and we have allowed it to illuminate us, it brings us freedom, so we truly desire sanctification and being set aside. We then are in the right position to be filled with His nature to a new capacity. I believe that's right where we're at, that we have to decide if I'm going to remain captive to all the social media and all the things around me and all the news and all of that, or am I going to desire a new level of sanctification in this hour, of allowing the Spirit of God to be formed in me. I also wrote, I believe for the most part we are waiting to deal with things in our lives, believing things like where God is, sickness cannot exist, and God's holiness is greater than my sin, and other concepts. We believe when His glory comes, then we'll deal with our issues. And we look at scriptures, we see that God's glory came because of man's separation first. I don't believe we have actually truly been separated, even though we've done a lot of great meetings and prayer meetings, and we're gaining some momentum. We still have not really came to that place where we've prepared ourselves for God to come. We're wanting God to come in the mess that we have, actually, in some ways. And I know God can do that. But when we come into the thing of Ezekiel 10, this dividing glory, a dividing glory is going to require holiness. And what God is trying to lead us to is another breath from His Spirit to come. You see that in Ezekiel 11:1, where the Spirit lifted me up and brought me to the eastern gate of the Lord's house. And it's a movement of God moving us, God lifting us, God doing something in our life that brings us to a new location and a new positioning. That's what's got to happen. And it's a breath that comes. It's a rock of God that comes. And this next breath starts to make us as a one formed corporate man. It is a covenantal alignment glory that God is wanting to come when this next breath comes. A oneness of heart, a oneness of purpose. He wants to form us into a corporate man. Now, if you look at where we're at as the church as a whole, we're very much struggling to be in a place of oneness or a corporate man, and it's because we go back to the fourth glory. We've not even allowed the nature of God to truly be formed in us, because the nature of God is the key to the oneness. Then we come into the place of dividing ourselves away from worldly things, the national purging glory, the fifth glory, to come into the sixth glory, a covenantal alignment glory, a oneness glory, a place of forming one new man. And out of that comes an ecclesia. Out of that comes a governing that has never yet been seen. We talk ecclesia, but in all honesty, the ecclesia that we're seeing is not the ecclesia that God is talking about. There's an ecclesia of the oneness that comes from the nature of Christ, where there is multitudes upon multitudes that have entered into that nature, and they are as one voice, one heart, one purpose, one covenantal alignment, and they will then begin to speak into things to bring forth the final glory, to bring forth the final breath. We're going to have a breath and then a breath. We're going to move from glory to glory. And that final glory is a transparent glory or a transcendent glory. It is a glory where the Spirit's going to take us away, where we're going to see the heavenly realms like we've never seen before. So some are moving into all these different types of glories. And I just really encourage you to, if you've not gotten my book on the breath of God, to get the book. It literally is like a roadmap if you would actually read it. And I know a lot of people have bought this and they've read it. But in this hour, you need to know what God is doing. He's trying to take us from glory to glory. This holiness that I'm talking about, that we're in right now, is a dividing glory, is why I wrote this book, The Dawn of a New Era. And it is not how we do things, it is the state of being we've got to enter into. And the Lord told me that the only thing that he's building right now is holiness. And see, the fifth glory of Ezekiel is a dividing glory. It requires a holiness, and it starts to bring the whole nation under a purging, which is what we really need right now. So there has to be a divide where our nature is not seen, his nature is seen, fourth glory, to come into the fifth glory, a dividing glory and a holiness. And that is what this book is about. It's about going back and re-looking at our identity and our righteousness, our sonship, our inheritance, and getting some fresh perspectives that's leading us to holiness, leading us to a place of a state of being so we can fulfill and help this glory come into the earth. I did write one other book, Releasing God's Sovereignty to a Nation. And in all honesty, these 3 books are basically 3 books that are like a set to fully understand. Here's about God's breath and what he wants to do, the roadmap, the plan. Here's the destination of holiness that's going to help the plan. And here's how I implement that into the nation around me and into my friends' lives, etc., etc. I encourage you today to allow God to purge you out, to allow God to fully form his nature inside of you, and get yourself ready, because as much as maybe we don't like what we see going on in the nation, this may be what's required for us to come into a place where we cry out with a harder cry, where there's a more seriousness of purpose in our lives, where we start to come together as the church. Once again, what I see in this hour is a dividing. I don't want to see divisiveness, but that is what's starting to come out of men's hearts, because there's areas that are unredeemed. God's trying to redeem us fully, bring us into being a one corporate man, being in a new man with a new voice, and he wants to bring forth a breath. This next breath is about to come, and it's going to be a breath that's going to lift us into new places in heavenly realms, to see things from a different perspective. And as we do that, we'll be able to understand our purpose in a greater way upon the earth and what God is wanting to do with our lives. So I encourage you today, let God do a work in your heart. Don't be discouraged by what you see. Be moved by what his Spirit is doing inside of you. Get yourself focused on him and realize that we are about to enter probably the most amazing moments of time in history, or the history of the church. We're going to see an entire nation go through a purging. We're going to see a church go through a purging. As we see evil in the political realm, and we see people that are scheming and doing evil things, and we're demanding justice. There's also a justice that God is demanding upon the leadership of the church. There's a purging he's going to do in the hearts of people and leaders in the church. And that's going to require us coming into a new place and a new moment of time in him. And I wrote it in the Breath of God book that, Ananias and Sapphira, there was death. There was severe judgment that came in the New Testament, but it was because they were coming against the breath of God that was moving in the church and the grace that was setting on the church. I tell you, if we would step into a sustaining grace, and that's where God wants to take us, into a sustaining grace, and start to move as a people that have been divided away from worldliness and coming into true holiness, I guarantee you God will step in and be our defense in a way we have never seen or imagined. So I just encourage you today, encourage you with all these things. I just felt that I was supposed to do this quick little video feed here this today on Facebook. It's kind of a teaching, but it's more of an encouragement of just where we're at. And, I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for what God's about to do in bringing another breath into the earth. I believe this next breath is the one we're looking for, that's going to start to bring us into an outpouring. I believe the next breath will be an awakening breath, and then there'll be a reformation breath. It may even be a reformation breath and then an awakening breath. But those two things are yet to come. We have not seen a true awakening yet. We've not seen reformation at all. God is beginning to awaken hearts. So I honestly believe that probably we're going to come into an awakening breath first, and then we're going to come into a reformation breath, and that will be the final thing to reform the earth, to redeem the earth fully. I will say this, and I've said this every year at a national conference I speak at, our agenda as the church and as leaders is not the agenda politically, even though that's important. Our agenda and our mandate is to redeem the earth for the King and the kingdom. So I say to you, allow the God to deal with you today. What is your role? What is your state of being? And get yourself refocused and get ready and start believing for a real breath of God to come. God bless you today. I just thank you for listening. Download the Base app for podcasts, for conferences, and all those kinds of things. Hopefully we can see you at the conference January 22nd, 23rd. I'm also going to start up Legacy School here directly. We're going to talk about spiritual warfare things. All of that's starting to come. I'm also getting ready, and I'm already, people are starting to call me to schedule me to come in and speak in different places. If you would like that, just get a hold of me in a private message, and I'll make sure that I get you on the schedule and we can come your direction. So God bless you today. Let's go after this thing and let the breath of God come. Amen. God bless you.